Hello everyone and welcome to this oil painting time-lapse and chat of this painting entitled The Owl Cave. If you are new, my friend, please subscribe. I just reached 2,000 subscribers, so thank you all so much. I promised that when I reached 2,000 subscribers that I would sing a song or do a dance, and so I will at some point in this video. I'm really regretting it now. There is a fairy tale that goes with this painting, so I will describe it as I'm doing the time-lapse thingy. The painting took about a week and was nearly a disaster, as are most of my paintings at the beginning, and I will explain in a moment. The reason this painting started out as a bit of a disaster is I don't know whether you can see properly, but the underpainting is extremely streaky. And the reason for this was I decided to use the M. Graham Walnut Owl Kit. Now this is a great medium, it really is lovely. It really smooths out the brush strokes and really makes your paint feel amazing when you're working with it. However, you're not really supposed to use very much of it in your painting layers. You're supposed to use just a little bit in ratio to your paint. However, I was a bit foolish and just thought, well, I know, I'll just thin out my paints with this. Anyway, it didn't work. It made the first layer extremely streaky and a bit of a mess, really. I was only just about to get another thin layer over it, and I continued to use the Walnut Owl Kit, but just less in this layer. But it wasn't really ideal, so I ended up switching out and changing the medium halfway through, which is not ideal. But there we are. I sort of managed to rescue it. I was a bit in despair at this point, but I was enjoying the story behind this painting, and it's just a simple story, really. Just this concept of an elf, a female elf. Whenever I think of elves, I often think of male elves for some reason, but this is a female elf, and she is in the woods doing lots of good, saving all the animals. This is a kind of kind-hearted elf, I guess. And inside the woods, she has this cave where she sleeps every day. And one day she leaves her cave to do her errands, looking after all the animals, rescuing things. And she comes back to her cave and finds it populated by lots and lots of owls, these very wide-eyed owls. And these owls are able to communicate with her, and they tell her that there's an amazing other world full of humans. And so she sends messages through the owls to the humans, and that's really the story. I've always found owls incredibly interesting. I feel like their sounds that they make are so varied that they communicate so well with each other, much like very vocal animals like cats, for example, and dogs as well. So I've always found owls to be quite interesting and not really talked about enough, because they're kind of fascinating, and I do think they look beautiful in art. And so I've been trying to incorporate them a bit more into my work. This suddenly changed the painting because I started to add in a lot more to the background, and I wanted the cave to have this kind of glow to it, this kind of turquoisey glow, and a sort of magical feeling to it. And quite often I like to listen to music that inspires me, and often when I'm painting fantasy work, a really great composer that makes me feel very fairy tale like is the composer Grieg. So I sometimes listen to him. So if ever you're looking for inspiration, his music is really inspirational. It's very old, it's very classical, but it has a very wonderful ethereal quality. And finally, I started to do the eyes, and they looked a bit scary about halfway through, but they're kind of coming together now. And at this point, I was feeling a lot better about my composition, and I felt it was all coming together finally. So I really was in despair at the beginning, but it sort of saved itself in the end. And so I do hope you enjoyed this painting. And this is probably my favourite part, doing all the small details with kind of a tiny brush and sort of much thicker paint, and creating this kind of glow. I mean, at this point the glow is starting to come through, which is nice, because I allowed the paint to dry on each day, and then finally built up the layers in thin paint each time. So I do hope you liked this painting, and I hope you enjoyed this little story. And in a moment, I'm going to do a ridiculous dance, because I promised you guys that I would at 2,000 subscribers. And there was no music to do this to, but an ambient music, which was copyright free. So it's a bit of a disaster. watching, everyone. I do hope you enjoy this little speed paint time lapse. Thank you again so much for 2,000 subscribers. Super sorry that this video wasn't any longer, and I will be back next week with another fantasy painting. Take care, guys. Merry Christmas, everyone.